All right, welcome everyone to the workshop on using ActivityInfo as a geographic information system.
Today, this workshop is going to be very hands-on. So I'm going to introduce you to what ActivityInfo can do with geographic information. But the goal is really to kind of lead you through making a series of maps with the system so that at the end of this hour and a half, you come away with some new skills. So I hope that's everybody's ready to get active. I'm going to first start with a little bit of introduction about the system and about our company. So just to introduce our team, we're based here in The Hague, and we're focused on building, delivering, and deploying ActivityInfo. We work with, I think, about 50 countries around the world, and mostly with the biggest deployments in the Syrian refugee crisis, in Venezuela, and probably in the DR Congo, but throughout the world. It's used for collecting data for humanitarian information systems, development, and health systems. So I think with me here in the chat is Anna, is one of the developers on our team who's worked a lot on the map tools. So send lots of questions and feedback. Faye is here as well. I think Martin Jan is not, but my colleague Claudine is. So they'll also be helping me answer questions as we go through. So just a word about myself before we get started. So like I started actually my career working as a GIS developer a long time ago back in America, in the small town where I grew up. There happened to be a company that made printed wall maps. So I got my start developing software that printed big zip code maps and drive time radius maps. And so I've always been fascinated by maps. After university, I took a job with IOM in Kunduz in Afghanistan, where I continued to make maps on the side, even as though I was a program officer. And finally, by the time that I got to working with UNICEF in the Congo, I couldn't hold back the mapping any longer and became an information management officer. And that's where I got really frustrated that it was so difficult to make good maps, because of course maps are great tools for planning, for evaluating, and for communicating the data that are important to our programs and to our interventions. And so it was there that I had a chance to work on a team in the UNICEF emergency department to build the first version of ActivityInfo, to make it easier to collect data, to make it geographically referenced so that we could produce good visualizations and actionable information that could be used to improve our programs for internally displaced people in Eastern Congo. So since then, the software has evolved into a platform that is used far and wide. Today, I'm very happy to say that it's a comprehensive platform for data collection, storage, and analysis. So just to kind of give you an idea of where this can fit in, ActivityInfo is generally used as the kind of system of record. It becomes a central repository for information, for the data that is critical to programs. You can bring in data from the web through a data entry form. You can work offline. You can bring in external data through a spreadsheet importer, through a mobile collection app, or through the API. We have built-in mapping and reporting tools that we'll spend a lot of time with today, but you can also connect it to external tools like Power BI, Tableau. We have an R package, and of course Excel, and we're working on extending that to some of the more sophisticated geographic visualization tools like ArcMap, ArcGIS, QGIS, via the web feature service, as well as KML and GeoJSON exports. So yeah, it's a system, it's a platform that can really sit at the heart of your operations, and serve as a single kind of source of truth of what's going on with your programs and activities. What we're going to be looking at today are kind of the 3 different phases of usage of the system. So for every person that interacts with the system, not everybody will be doing all functions. So it always begins with defining a data structure, setting up the forms and the relationship between forms that constitute your database. In the second phase, you'll invite people to import or collect data. And in the third phase, you can visualize and share data. So this workshop is really geared towards people who are, like I hope yourselves, who are actually going to be involved in the setup, collection, and visualization of data. But certainly there are a lot of people that only work with providing data through ActivityInfo or visualizing it. So the goal, like I said, is to keep it very hands-on today, and to walk through at least 3, but maybe 4, depending on time, exercises that you'll be able to actually do yourself, so that you'll get a sense of how accessible this is, and accessible for other people in your organization. I mean, I think one of the things that we're really interested here in at Be Data Driven and on the ActivityInfo team is, democratizing the access to these kinds of tools. We want everybody to be able to make a map, to be able to connect data to geography, because geography in many cases is really so important. So I don't need to convince you of that. You're here at a CartONG conference. But I hope we can all get involved in the tool today. So the way that it's going to work is I have these 4 exercises written out step by step. So for each of the exercises, I'll walk you through doing the exercise in the tool, and then we'll pause a little bit to give you time to catch up or to do them yourselves. You can certainly do them after the presentation as well, but I'd really encourage you to try them out today, and so that you have a chance to ask questions here, and give us feedback on the tool. If all goes well, then you should produce some very striking visual maps that you can share on social media. So I hope that's an attractive incentive. All right, so the first thing is to make sure that you can connect to ActivityInfo. If you don't have an ActivityInfo account, you can follow this link to sign up. If you already have an ActivityInfo account, you may not have permission to create a new database. You can do that by starting a trial, just by following this link here, and this will, oops. First error in the live demo. Let me correct the link. Okay, but for those of you who don't have an account, this link is the one that you need. Otherwise, if you already have an account, you can start a free trial by following this link. All right. So if all goes well, then when you sign in, you should see this Add Database button. If you don't see the Add Database button, then you don't have permission to create databases in ActivityInfo, and you need to follow this second link here that I've just corrected. All right, so I've got the chat window open. Please let me know if you have any questions. I can see people are copying anonymous tigers and so forth. So that, I hope that's going well. All right, so for exercise 1, we're going to start with a very simple map. So the idea is that in ActivityInfo, if you want to map your data, you of course need some geographic information to associate with that data. You can of course collect just latitude, longitude. That we'll do in the second exercise. But often, often you may not have the precision of a geographic point, or you may not need the precision. And what you can do instead is use a reference field to reference some existing geographic data. So let's take a quick look at this. Let me delete this one here. Okay, so you can start by adding a database. In the database, just so that it's easier to follow along if you share it with me or others, just put your name in the first as part of the database, and we'll call this just Alex Bertram GIS. We have a couple of different templates. Most of these, the difference between these templates really goes down to the permissions. So we're going to choose for this exercise just a simple blank database, which gives us a very simple set of roles for the users. All right. So now we have our empty database, and I'm going to just start by adding a form called water trekking. I'm going to add some fields. So the first one, and this is the important one, this is what gives us the geography, is I'm going to choose the reference field down here. So we have a built-in geographic database, the geo database, that for each country we have at least the first admin level. For many countries where you are likely to work, we have more detailed geography. In this case, in Yemen, for example, we have down to the sub-district level. So just you have to follow these Miller columns through geodatabase Yemen sub-district, and then continue. We're going to call this field the location. So this tells us where our activity is taking place. I'm going to make this a key field. Now, a key field is a way of kind of giving a name to each of your entries. And so we're going to say that we're going to have essentially one name, one activity per sub-district. All right, so that's my first field. My next field, I'm just going to add a date field. I'm going to make that required, but not a key field. And 2 quantity fields to capture some indicators about these activities. So the amount of water distributed. This units is just for the people providing the data. It's just a guide during data entry, so I'll put in liters. And I'll add another field for a number of beneficiaries. And this unit will be persons. I'll make this required as well. Okay, so our form builder, of course, you have lots of other options. You can set skip logic or relevance rules, validation rules. We won't be covering that today. We'll just keep it very simple. I will make this required though. Okay, all right. So save your form now. And so now if we think about this diagram here of, we usually call this setup, collect, and analyze or visualize. We've completed this very simple setup phase, and so now we're going to, we're going to collect some data. In this case, it's just going to be us, but of course you can invite other people to supply this data. But let's just use the data entry form here. So you can see this, my location field has become a kind of a cascading dropdown because I referenced a form with 3 keys, the governorate, district, and sub-district. So let me see, let's go to the governorate of Aden, the district of Kritar Sirah, and then Sirah. We'll say that this activity took place in August, and we distributed 500 liters of water to 60 people. So a little bit less than 10 liters per person. Okay. So now you can see your first record that we've added. You can see the details on the right-hand side. There's always an audit log of the data, who's provided the data and when. Let's add one more record. Let's go down to Hajjah, Al-Jamira, Jamama, and Jaffna. This one is in September. A bit larger distribution with 700 beneficiaries. All right. So I encourage you to maybe add 1 or 2 more records. But you can already switch from the table view to the map view. So this gives you a geographic view, and you can see that we've basically pulled in this geography from the sub-district. You could roll that up to the governorate level, but of course the sub-district is the detail. So you can see the entry down here that we added in Aden on the Gulf there, and you have the entry in Jaffna. Okay. I'll just pause a second here. Just want to make sure everybody has been able to access the system and create your first form. Maybe put a thumbs up in the chat if all is going well. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I can slow down. I think there's even buttons where, in Zoom where you can tell me to go faster or slower. Okay. I will call on people to share their screen later on, so there will be a quiz. All right. No questions. Okay, so we've got our form. We've got a couple data points. This map view here allows you to quickly basically just switch between views of the data. But one of the things that we've added recently that I'm very excited about is the ability to create thematic maps. So we're going to create a very simple thematic map to show the number of beneficiaries of our water trucking assistance program. In hindsight, a water trucking activity on the Gulf is probably not very realistic, but we'll just go with this example. So we're going to go from right now we're in the databases section. So Sylvia de Labrador, yeah. So Sylvia, you're going to have to follow this link here to convert trial. If you follow this link, then you'll be able to start a trial, and that will give you permission to create a database, to add a database. So I think you probably had a previous, an existing ActivityInfo account from way back when. Okay. Yeah, so Sylvia put in the chat that she couldn't create a database, only have a message that no database has been shared with me. Yeah, I feel like nearly everybody has used ActivityInfo once to report to some donor in the past, and so you may have an account from 2015 or something. If that's the case, then just follow this this convert trial link, and then you can start activate your account so that you can create databases as well. All right. Right. So here we've been looking at the data. We can switch between the table view and the map view. But now we're going to go to the report section. So we're now in the databases section. We're going to move to the reports section, where you can create customized reports and then share these with other people on your team, or you can publish them as kind of a public dashboard. So today we're going to be focusing on the maps. You can also create pivot charts and tables based on your data, but today we'll focus on the maps. Okay. So one of the things about ActivityInfo is you can pull in data from as many data sources as you have access to. So if you're working in a country where the response plan is monitored using ActivityInfo, then you could pull in that data as well as your personal database. In this demo account, I just have basically my databases. So I'm going to pull in this water trucking form and then click on done. And you can always go back and add more data by clicking on the select forms button. See, that opens up this screen where you can select the data that you want. And here you have a list of your layers that are going to make up the map. So let's drag on from our field list here the number of beneficiaries. So you drag that here, that's going to add it by default as a proportional circle. And so you can see the symbol there. And we're working on giving you more options. You know, this will never be the rocket ship that ArcMap is. I think that's a bit too much. But we want to make it easy for people to make simple choices how to present their data. So for example, we can change this to blue. I hope that's blue. I'm colorblind, so blue and purple for me are kind of indistinguishable, but I think this is blue. Maybe this is this is blue. That's a nice color. All right. So this gives you a very simple thematic map. This is just our first exercise. And now we can save this as water trucking assistance. That's the exercise, right? So you could share this now with other people who have access to your database, or you could publish it, which we'll look at in exercise 3. Any other questions? I'm just going to pause here. I'm going to pause here. Hopefully everybody can catch up to this point. Oops. Oh. I've done something to my screen. Just bear with me. I'm going to pause. Please put your questions in the chat. Somehow I've managed to disconnect my second screen. All right. Any questions? I'll give you one more minute and then we'll continue. I hope. I guess we're going to have to do one screen. Okay. All right. Let's continue on to the next exercise. So in the next exercise, we're going to pull in, we're going to actually collect some geographic data. So we're going to make a very simple form with a geographic point field. And we're going to also look at inviting users to access and provide data. So I'm going to go back to my database that I created, this Alex Bertram GIS. Hopefully you have your own. And I'm going to create a form called workshop participants. And we'll just add a simple name field. We'll make it a key field. What else did I have here? An organization field. And geographic point field, right? So this can be either you can enter the coordinates directly, or you can use your device's GPS receiver. So if you're on a mobile phone or a tablet, you can use the GPS receiver. If you're on a desktop like I am or a laptop, then we'll use your Wi-Fi signal to get an approximate location. All right, so we have our location. I'd encourage you to add an additional field here. You can see we have a number of options. I'll leave it there. Okay. So now we have a very simple structure again. And but let's look at inviting users to your database. So if we go back to the database page here and then to database settings, there's a section called user management. And here you can add people in different roles. So for example, I'm going to add my colleague Faye. I'm going to give her a data entry role, which allows her to enter data, but I'm not going to give her access to the whole database, just to this form. So I'll send that invite, and then Faye can also enter data in my form. She'll get an email that will give her a link to the database in the form that she can enter, and she'll be limited to data entry. Now these roles are fully customizable, so this blank database template comes with 3 very simple ones, but I can give her additional permissions. So for example, I can give her the ability to share or publish reports, or I can remove her ability to delete records. Maybe I only want her to be able to add and edit records. You can add additional roles, give them new names as you need. But as part of the exercise, you can invite me. I'm Alex at bedatadriven.com. I'll fill out your form. But let's just take a look at what that looks like on the desktop. So this is me. My organization is Be Data Driven, and my current GPS location is in The Hague. So if we switch to the map view, it shouldn't be a surprise. You can find that I've snuck into our otherwise closed office for this workshop here in The Hague at Bink 36, which is home to many very interesting organizations in The Hague. Okay. I'm going to try and find my chat window back here and then see if there are any questions. Okay, to everyone. Yeah, so you can invite me to your database if you want. Now, the other thing that I want to show you with this exercise is the offline mode. So back at the database screen here, there's a button here called Download for Offline Use. Now, once you've downloaded that, you'll see that this database status changes to Available Offline. And that means that you are now able to work without an internet connection. So this will allow you to work offline. I'm not going to disconnect now. I think that would probably be a bad thing with Zoom, but this would give you a chance to work offline, and then as soon as you're synchronized, or as soon as you're connected, it will synchronize. So I see a question from Annabella. She's having some trouble with the first exercise. Annabella, I don't know if you've seen the step-by-step directions here. Maybe you can tell us which step that you're getting stuck on. I definitely encourage you to check out the ActivityInfo tutorials at help.activityinfo.org. But in the meantime, I hope that this is a good enough guide. Can you tell us, Annabella, which step you're getting stuck at? All right. The date field. Okay. So in this water trekking here, I can always go back to form settings. When you add a field, you have a choice here of different field types, and the date field here is in the second row. So if you click on this date field, and then I just put in the date, you could also say date of activity, and then click on done. And the same for the quantity fields, right? So the quantity is a number. If you click on the quantity type, let me go back, I was too quick again. So the quantity is in the first row. Maybe we ought to alphabetize these. That might be a helpful thing. Okay. All right. I'd also encourage you to, if you have a tablet at the ready, you can load the application on your tablet. It works very well with tablets. You can use the GPS receiver, the offline mode, all of that thing. We're also working on a mobile, like a really small version for mobile phones that's more comparable to ODK. And that's something that we'll probably have out before the end of the year. But for now, the tablet is a really good option. Okay. Other questions? Please don't hesitate to ask. The goal is really to help everybody work through a complete example. And we've got, I think we're doing very well on time. Okay. So we went through the first exercise, the second exercise. You can also make a map of that data. Let me switch accounts because I ask you to invite me to alex@bedatadriven.com. Let me sign in there and see if anybody shared. Nope, nobody shared a database with me yet. So you can do that by going to database settings. And then in the user management section, just click on add user. And just enter the email address here. Any other questions? All right. So we've done two simple exercises. I hope everybody's gotten through that. Now I'd like to turn to some real data and to demonstrate the importer function, because I think this is something that can be very useful if you have already data that's been collected. So we're going to look at some site assessments that were done in Nigeria by IOM. I put a link to it here in the document. So you can find this on HDX. I'm gonna go a bit more slowly here because there's a few more moving parts. But you can find here this Excel spreadsheet with the latest round, which was done actually this month, I think, or last month in September. Click on this download button and you'll get a spreadsheet that looks like this. So what we're going to do now is look at how you can bring in this kind of data that's already been collected into ActivityInfo. Even though we have an existing spreadsheet, we do need to start with the database structure all the same. So I'm going to go back to my database here, and I'm going to add a new form called site assessment. And I'm going to add the fields that I need from this site assessment. So the first thing is I do want the state. So that's the first admin level here. So I'm just going to add a text field for state. I'm going to make that a key field. And I'm going to add a text field for the site name. So this is the name that the assessment team gave to the settlement. All right, this is also a key field. And let's see. We're going to add a geographic location, a geographic point location for the latitude and longitude. So this is in 2 columns here. in this Excel spreadsheet. But we're going to, in activity info, that should be a single field, right? So we'll have a geographic point. We're going to have one field for the number of households. So this is the number of households that were assessed here. And I'm going to add a multiple select for, let me get the name of this right. This is natural hazard risks. So this is a genuine research question here, is that we've done these assessments, and now one thing that would be useful is to really understand how these natural hazard risks are linked to geography, right? So where in all of Nigeria, are there risks that are common to all of the camps? Are they concentrated in certain places? What is the nature of the kinds of camps that are at risk here? So this is a real question that a map will help us to understand. So I'm going to add 3 of the risks that they assessed here, which was floods. I'm just going to make sure that I type this right so that the import goes a bit easy. So it's flood, storm, and fire. I could make this a text field, but it's a bit easier. It's a bit neater if this is a multi-select. And fire. Okay. So these are the information that I want. I want to be able to map. So these are the fields that I'm going to define. I'm going to save my form. Does anybody have, sorry, before I go, does anybody have any questions about defining these form fields? So again, the geographic point field you can find here. Geographic point, that will be your location. Natural hazard risk is going to be a multiple selection field. And that should be it. So just 5 fields that we're going to use to make this map. Okay. So now I have my form. It's empty. But I'm going to now import this data from HDX. So before I do that, I'm going to do a little bit of preparation on this Excel spreadsheet. So the first thing you see is the second row contains these, I believe it's the HDL tags. These are really useful, but ActivityInfo, we can't do anything with them right now. So we're just going to remove that row. And the next thing is in this risk column here. There's a lot of data here. Yeah, natural hazard risks. I'm just going to replace this none with blank. I guess I could have added a none option, but it's not very useful. So just replace all. All right. So that should be it. And so now I'm just going to copy this data. I'm going to go back to my importer, and so the import button is here next to export. So we're going to import. When it finishes loading, then we'll continue. Now most of these fields don't match because we didn't add them, but you can see the state has been matched to one of our fields. The site name has been matched. Longitude matched. The latitude we have to do manually. So if you click on the column first, then you'll see the potential field matches here. So click on latitude. And you can see that our number of households field has been matched, and our natural hazard risks has been matched. Okay. Okay, so I go to the next screen, and it tells me that 300 new records will be added. All of them are valid, so that's good. So now we can finish here. Importing. Everybody get this far? Okay. All right. So so now we have all of our data imported. We have for each of the sites, we have a geographic location. We can just quickly check this the import here by going to the map, and you can see indeed that all of the locations have been imported. This is Nigeria. We didn't get the latitude and longitude flipped or anything like that. So that's all worked well. Great. So now let's look at making a little bit more of a thematic map. So remember, the goal here is we have these assessments that have been done, and now we want to understand, where are the natural hazard risks? Are they concentrated? Are they everywhere? So let's take a look. We're going to go back to the reports section, and I'm going to add another map. And again, once more, I'll choose the data. So this is the site assessment data. And the first thing is I'm just going to add the number of households as a proportional circle layer, just so we can see where everybody is, or where these camps are. So you can see these camps are spread out through the eastern half of Nigeria, concentrated in the far east here. You can drill down and see that the largest camps are in this urban center of Maiduguri, and most are on the outskirts of the town. I mean, something that's already quite interesting that just by looking at the map, and this is where geography comes in, is that you can see that there's a real link between the locations of the camps and the road networks. So, I mean, this is very typical. Is the center is here, and the camps are forming along the major highway axes outside of the city. You do have some cities, some points in the interior and the center of the city, but by far they're kind of circling the urban center. Okay, you can also turn on this box up here in the left-hand corner. You can switch between this kind of light-based map and something that emphasizes the street networks more prominently, and also the satellite-based map, which allows you to drill down to to some pretty decent satellite imagery. This is from Mapbox. It varies quite a bit in quality, but here you can see in this area, there's quite some reasonable resolution. Okay, but since we're working on a thematic map, I'm going to switch back to my light-based map so we can really emphasize the data. And now I want to map these risks, right? So up to now we've used the proportional circle layer type, but we also have an icon layer type that you can use to plot specific icons. Remember that we captured here the risks, the natural hazard risks. But in order to prepare this for the map, we're actually going to use a calculation. So this is maybe a bit tricky, so I'll slow down. Yeah, basically we want like a true or false calculation here. So on my list of fields on the right in this formula editor, you can see the formula language is a lot like Excel's language, where we've tried to keep it so that people, if you are familiar with formulas in spreadsheets, then you can use formulas here. So for example, if I have the number of households, you can use the field ID or just type number of households with brackets times 5. Maybe that gives you the the approximate number of individuals. But here I'm just going to click on flood, first of all, and that will give me a true or false value here. So this is flood risks. And since this isn't a number, I get an icon by default, which is what I wanted. So we have the OCHA. OCHA made a great list of a set of symbols for humanitarian mapping. Those are preloaded in here. There's actually a flood icon, I believe, somewhere around here. I think we need a search box. Can add that to Anna's list. Yeah, flood. Okay, so here you can see this gives you a plot of where all of the sites are that are at risk of floods. And now I think you can maybe already see that these are concentrated in a few places and mostly in urban areas. So if I drill down here, you can see this site here is an urban area. This is this urban area that we looked at previously, I believe, outside Song. And it's concentrated here on the border. I bet you there's a river here. No, but this gives you an idea of where the flood risks are. They seem to be highly concentrated in this area in the center here, with a few other sites that have risks, but you can see that the real risk is concentrated in this area. Let's add another layer for the fire risks. So I'll just go back and add another calculated field. Fire. Make this one red. I'm not so sure if there was a fire icon, but there's something similar here. We'll use this conflict icon. Okay. Now this area seems particularly prone to natural hazard risks of all kinds. Let's add storm risks to see if that's also true for storms. Okay. Okay, and let's find an appropriate icon. I believe that OCHA has a storm risk as well. A ship shower. Yeah, there we go. Storm, storm surge, storm. Okay. Great. So now we've come to our map. We've mapped the locations of the camps as well as the risks. I mean, what you can see here is that this area seems to be highly prone to natural hazard risks. So if we're looking at devoting a budget to these kinds of resilience projects, this area seems like it would be a good place to start. Okay, so let me just see if I can find my chat here. Okay. All right. So again, I'm going to finish this exercise. We do have the step-by-step guide so that you'll have a chance to walk through this on your own. Let me save this and finish the last step. So now I have so this is I'm going to put my name in here. So we know Nigerian IDP settlement, natural hazard risks. And now I'm going to use the publish feature. So once this map is assembled, I can go to the publishing function here at the tab and click on publish now. Now this, you do need to be careful because this means that anybody can access this data via this link. So you have a link here. If you open this, then you have a public map that you can share with your data on it. And yeah, this brings us kind of to the end of the cycle of defining our data, collecting the data, in this case, importing it from another source, and then visualizing and sharing it. So I'm going to pause here. I think we'll take a longer break, maybe about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll start on the last one after that. But I do really hope that you take advantage of our team here to ask questions, to work through the exercise yourself. Again, if you look at I hope everybody's found the spreadsheet, the link. As I mentioned, just remember to remove this first, or this second row, and do a find replace from none to blank. And then that should be ready for importing. And when you're done, share this link in the chat, and then we can see maybe you made some better color and icon choices than I did. Oh, that's my own one. Okay. All right, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, but I will call on people to share their maps. So please ask questions. Sylvie, yeah, I have a question on data interoperability. Is the key function helpful to load the geographic data first at once and then monitor them without entering again the geolocation? Yes, no, that's a great question, Sylvie. That is indeed, you can use the key function to, or the key fields to update the data. So let me just quickly show you. So if we go back to this site here, databases, and this site assessment, I made these two fields as key fields, and that means that I can use them to update this data as well. So if I export this data, 1 second, I've got to. Okay, so if I export this data, I switch to user accounts, and sometimes that goes wrong. Let's open this up, and I'll do some updates. So this was 57, maybe that was actually 157, and there's a fire risk, and here this is 92. So if you import this here, then this will match. It will match the reference fields automatically. And then what you'll see is that 2 records match existing records and will be updated, and 0 new records will be added. So that means that they're matching based on keys to the existing data. So that will allow you to update this existing data. Now, in the next exercise, we'll look at how you could integrate programmatic data in a slightly different way so that you can actually keep track of changes over time. But let's see if we can come through this first. So Sebastian asks, is the WFS endpoint functionality available or not? Not quite yet. I'm still looking for people to test it. because WFS only allows one geographic feature or one piece of geometry per feature, whereas ActivityInfo you could have potentially multiple geographic points. So it's not clear whether, I think maybe just from the map view, we'll give you a link to just this specific map view through WFS that you could use. I think that's the way, but if you're interested in testing it, then please let me know, and I'll ask you to be a guinea pig. All right. Anybody else have a map that they want to share in the chat? Let me go to my list of participants here and start calling on people. Annabella, have you managed to get through the import? Okay. And Ivan and Miguel, I haven't heard from you guys. I hope you're able to follow along and jump in. All right. All right, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee, and please put your questions in the chat. Okay. I just want to, while we're waiting, I'll point out a couple other features here. Note that you also have the pivot table and charts here, so we can take the same data, for example, the site assessment, and look at the number of people that are subject to these risks by province, for example. So if you have a visual representation, the table might complement that, for example. So here you can see that I've dragged the number of households to the pivot table as my measure. In the rows, I have the natural hazard risks. Let me move that around up here so that you can see how many people are actually affected by these risks by camp. Oops, let me bring that back. State. And we can also turn on totals here, so you can see the total number of people that are in camps, and we could show this as a percentage of the IDPs as well. And if you show this as a bar chart, let's turn off totals. Well, you can see that this province or the state of Borno is definitely the most significant source of risks. Okay, and this report you can also share risk by state. Probably a more interesting chart here is just to remove this and look at the totals of total households by state. But in any case, you can save this and then publish this in the same way that we publish the maps. So then you get a link to a dashboard with the graph. All right. We've got about a half an hour left in the workshop. So what I'll do is maybe I'll walk through the last exercise. Well, maybe we'll make this more of a demonstration of how you can integrate program data into your geographic data. I think this is one of the questions that Sylvie was alluding to. And this is one of the strengths of ActivityInfo is that you can link together this geographic data with information about your activities. So let's take a look at how this can work. So in this example here, we have now, I'm going to remove this offline copy. We have our site assessments, right? So we've gone out and we've identified all of the IDP camps. And now the next step, of course, is to make a decision about the types of interventions that we're going to undertake in each of these camps. So for that, we can create data collection forms that reference these sites. So let's add a form here. The simplest one might be, for example, an NFI distribution, a non-food item distribution. So then we're going to reference this site assessment that we performed. You can also make this a key field, perhaps together with the date, and that might uniquely identify a distribution. We have site date, and for an NFI distribution, we can keep it simple enough to do number of households who received a kit. And in this way, the program staff can track for each distribution. They can choose the site where the distribution was made. So here we're referencing the existing data that we've collected, the date of the activity, and the number of households. So if I add a couple records here, what you'll see is that this is now geographically referenced to the site data that I've collected. And you would be able to see this on the map because this is pulling the geography from the site assessment location. So this is the last exercise I added here. Just for the sake of demonstration, I'll walk through another example that involves periodic reporting. So we have an NFI distribution, which is tends to be punctual. So each distribution takes place once at each camp. But you might also have, for example, a mobile clinic. And a mobile clinic is not just something that is done once, but perhaps you are collecting data on a monthly basis. So I'll just give you a quick example of how you can use subforms as well. Let's again reference our sites. So again, once you have the data in here, whether that's something that you're collecting or bringing in from somewhere else, you can use that as essentially as a common reference for all of your data. We'll say that there's going to be one mobile clinic per site, so we can make that a key. And then we can maybe add some information about the type. So this could be a ambulatory pharmacy, or it could be a clinic. And then, of course, if we want monthly data, we don't want to just update this form and change the data every month. We want to keep track of the figures over time. And so for that case, we can add a subform, which is a way to collect any kind of repeating data. So let's call this monthly reports. And then we can add a month, and this becomes a key field. And then we can collect statistics from the field, such as, for example, the number of consultations, and perhaps more detailed breakdowns like number of prenatal consultations. And then once you've established your list of mobile clinics, so we'll again choose here, this is maybe a clinic. Then for each month, we can enter the statistics. So maybe 50 consultations in total, of which 10 were prenatal consultations. And we can add another one for the previous month. So maybe from October, this year, October. And again, this information stays linked to the geographic information that we entered and collected from the IDP sites. We can drill down to the monthly reports and see the statistics for each month. And of course, you can combine this all together on one map. Okay, Sylvie, does that maybe address what you're getting at? All right. So let's take a step back and look at these four exercises. Each of these four exercises included a setup, an import or collection phase, and a visualization phase. Sometimes we did that with a thematic map, like the one that I created here. It involves symbols and data combined with a base map. In other cases, it can be a quick visualization that maybe your team is using to identify sites or consult sites. For example, here, maybe we'll switch to the map view, switch to the satellite view, and then really drill down to specific areas to look at the details of sites. Maps have different purposes, and an interactive map like this can be a useful planning tool as well as an analysis tool. Thematic maps give you, a way to tell a story with your data. In this case, the location of natural hazard risks in Nigeria. Yeah. So we've gone through four different exercises. First, connecting our data with geography using built-in reference data. So if we go back to this first example, we looked at the water trucking form, and the way that we connected this data with geography was using the reference field. So this references the Yemen subdistrict. That's stored in our geodatabase, so that you don't even have to collect the geographic information. We use that built-in form as a geographic reference. In the second exercise, we looked at collecting actual latitude and longitude, which you can do with your device's GPS receiver. We have lots of people who use the ActivityInfo with tablets in the field. Gives you a chance to kind of review the data, to make changes to the data. It's very useful for case tracking, or if you're working with local communities. The tablet is a great way to collect geographic data in that way. For the third example, we brought in data from outside, data that already existed somewhere, brought it into our repository, which allowed us to visualize that data thematically. I also showed you a couple of the other visualizations. And then finally, we looked at how we could connect this geographic data that we collected with program data. So for example, collecting and linking the geographic data to reference data, to activity data like an NFI distribution or a mobile health clinic. So I encourage you to go through this. Our goal is really to get more people using these kinds of tools, so that more people are able to do this kind of analysis. But I think one of the big advantages of ActivityInfo is that these kinds of options give you built-in geography from day one, either using the geographic reference database or the mobile data collection tools. All right, so that brings me to the end of my presentation and of the exercise. If you're interested in learning more about ActivityInfo, I think Claudine and Faye shared some great links. We have a really great reference manual online where you can go through all of these exercises and more. If you'd like a more kind of instructor-led session, we have 2 virtual trainings coming up, one in November and one in December. These are 4-day courses. It's like, I think it's a total of 7 sessions of 2 hours where we really take you through A through Z of the system. You can learn the ins and outs. We also have for all of those who are participating today, we have a special discount code. These trainings are normally 700 euros. With this discount code, you can purchase it for 300 euros if you use a credit card. And again, all of the information is there online if you want to learn yourself, but if you want to have an instructor help you through all of this, then these guided courses might be a good option. So I'll stop here. I hope there are questions. So Annabella asked, so the data shown on the map changes over time, like it grows or reduces over time, or is listed on the side with the monthly numbers? Also this, okay, so first of all, yeah, these reports are live. So they're based on the most recent data that's updated. So if you look at this public dashboard here, if I delete this site over here in the data entry, then this point will then disappear. If we look at the diagram, where does the data come from? The ActivityInfo is really meant to be an integrated solution. We find that when people have to deal with multiple tools, it can get really difficult. So once you've created your database in ActivityInfo, you can invite your team members to enter the data online through the web form. So that's probably appropriate for something like an NFI distribution where teams come back from the field to the office and at the end of each week make an update where they've gone. They can do that through the data entry interface here. If you have data from an external system, then the spreadsheet importer or the API can be good ways to bring that in. For mobile data collection, we used to have an integration with ODK, but it didn't do everything that we wanted to. So we have now a mobile app that's directly linked to ActivityInfo, which works much better. I can give you a quick preview of what that looks like. I'll have to tell my browser to pretend that it's a mobile device. So if I log in with my ActivityInfo account, then I can access these same forms. It just really doesn't want to recognize my new login. I'll log into this demo account that I created. Yeah, so I have this for, not this one, but this is the demo one that I created here. You can see all of the forms that we created during this demo. And you can download this database offline on your phone. And then enter data from your mobile phone. So for example, if we go to the site assessment, then I can complete this, the site name, testing, collect the latitude and longitude, and the number of households, identify the natural hazard risks, and submit it. One of the things that I think is really quite nice is the reference data. So I think one of the frustrations we had with ODK was that it was very difficult to maintain these long lists of options. If you look here at the water, where is it, the NFI distribution, which is linked to the sites, you can see there's this nice multi-stage selection. So for example, we first select the state of the site, and then you can find the or filter for the site that you're talking about and enter your data. And then that's submitted. And then that data, of course, is synchronized. Here. So I see some questions about free for use. So let me just say a couple of words about how we work. So ActivityInfo started out as a project that we actually built for UNICEF in the Congo. At that point, it was open source, but it was only used in the Congo. And as other countries started to be interested in using it, first in Mali, and then Madagascar, and then Jordan, it became very difficult for the UNICEF emergency section to support them. And so we decided that if we really wanted the software to grow and to be, to continue to be effective, that we would need to make sure that it was sustainable over the long term. And so now we offer the software as a subscription. So for a yearly fee, your organization gets a certain number of users. And then our team really makes sure that everything works for you. We're there to make changes, fix things, and make sure that that you have everything that you need. So it's not a free tool. It's not a tool like Google Sheets or something like that. But it is a tool that is really focused on being perfect for humanitarians and for people in this sector. We were supported essentially by field offices. This project is sustained by field offices that pay a yearly subscription fee to make sure that we can continue to invest in the software and make it a great tool. So yeah, please get in touch with me. If there's an issue with a budget, we're always happy to discuss. But it is kind of based on a relationship with an organization. Where we make a commitment to support you, and you contribute to the tool's development and maintenance over time. So Sylvia asked if you need a license for the data collector, or could you use the app on as many devices as you need? At this time, it's everybody that uses the system needs a license or a seat. The mobile device, the mobile collection tool is new, so we're still looking at different use cases. So if you have a case where you're doing maybe a punctual survey and you have maybe 20 enumerators or something that are going out into the field to collect data, we can talk about that and see what the best way to handle that is. I hope that answered both of your questions. All right. Well, we've got 7 minutes left. So please, I'm at your disposal. What about the dashboard functionalities? Pie charts. Pie charts. Yeah, kicking and screaming. I think we'll ultimately add pie charts. We're doing a lot of work on visualization and analysis tools right now. Currently, what you can do is publish individual report elements as a dashboard. So this, for example, this map that we published, you can publish this as a quote dashboard, to share or embed in your website as an iframe. Or if you have a pivot chart or a table, you can share these individually. Something that we're going to be working on in the last quarter of this year is essentially a dashboard that allows you to combine all of these different report elements together with text into a single shareable dashboard or report. So that's on the way. That's not quite there, but certainly what a lot of deployments of the ActivityInfo use right now is Power BI. So this is very easy to connect to Power BI, and of course the Uber example is in Iraq, the humanitarian response plan. We have a blog post about that up as well, where they bring together like all 120 partners together in a Power BI dashboard, and this is updated daily. This updated automatically pulls from ActivityInfo, and is then accessible to everybody to show what's going on in Iraq and who's doing what where. So, our goal is twofold. One is we want ActivityInfo to integrate seamlessly with these kinds of tools. So right now that's Power BI and Tableau. We mentioned at the beginning of the workshop the web feature service. That's so that we know that people can integrate easily with ArcGIS, so that if you want to do a more sophisticated map, or if you want to do the kind of remote sensing analysis that we saw this morning, or I saw in the workshop, you can always do that. But at the same time, we want to have built-in tools like this mapping tool that are more accessible to to a wider group of people, so that you don't need to necessarily be a GIS expert to create a thematic map. So those are the options we have right now. One is the kind of deluxe option with Power BI. And throughout the end of this year and into next year, we're going to be working on analysis, the built-in analysis tools in ActivityInfo, including pie charts, which is the worst visualization, of course, but so that you can do that more easily within ActivityInfo, and you don't need to bring in this constellation of extra tools. Any other questions? Well, I hope you've used what we've covered here to make a beautiful map. Share it on social media with the hashtag GeoNJ2020. Don't forget your discount code here. If you're interested in a training that's coming up in December and November, we have one that's geared towards Middle East, North Africa, and Europe, kind of on this time zone or my time zone, and one that's geared towards the Americas, which would take place in the evening European time, but daytime in the Americas. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I hope it was useful. I hope you learned something. And yeah, don't hesitate to get in touch. Yes, don't forget to mention us at ActivityInfo on Twitter, hashtag #GeoNJ2020. And don't hesitate to get in touch if you have questions or are interested in using the tool.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alexander. And thank you everyone for attending. And I'll let you attend the next session on networking, and you can still get in touch with ActivityInfo in here. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.